The National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders, together with government and the private sector, will host an engagement to develop traditional communities. This two-day event starts today in Bloemfontein and will be led by Deputy President Paul Mashatile. Let's get you a preview of that event with the Chairperson of the National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders, Kgosi Thabo Seatlholo, joins us via our video link this morning. It's great to talk to you, sir. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. And I imagine there are a number of issues, a number of challenges, shall we say, that you'd like to highlight with government today.
Yes, good morning and morning to the viewers at home. Absolutely, there's a couple of issues that we need to discuss with government, primarily with the Deputy President of the Republic. Remember, as the National House, we are there in terms of law to represent the voice of rural people, and currently there's little economic development that is taking place in our areas. We are sitting with a lot of unemployed youth who are dejected. The question of the land, as you would know, the current legislation is actually an apartheid legislation that said black people cannot own land on their own. Mm-hmm. The Bantustan minister would be owning land on behalf of all rural people. So one of the issues is to really, and it's not even a new issue for that matter, one of the issues is to say to government, can you do away with this apartheid legislation, because it's dehumanizing. Government continues to see us as people who cannot be in control of what naturally and originally belongs to us. So those are some of the issues that we are going to be discussing today.
As you say, it's not new. None of these issues are new. Many of them long-standing. In terms of the last meeting of this nature that was had between government and the National House of Traditional Leaders in Khoi-San, what was some of the progress that has been made?
Well, government told us that they are working on a policy, because what is making them not to transfer the land is the necessary legislation. So we are expecting to hear that the necessary legal mechanisms for the transfer of land is complete, so that it can be done as soon as possible. But also some of the issues is to try and bring at least TVET colleges closer to rural areas, mm-hmm. because one of the things we are struggling with as communities is that it's very difficult to access, higher education. So if government can look at building some of the TVET colleges in our rural areas, it would help our people a lot, because not everybody can go to the university. Mm.
And that issue of unemployment is obviously linked quite closely to what you're raising now, bringing TVET colleges closer to communities.
Yes, definitely, because the soft skills are not required much in our communities. What you need, in any case, the economy in itself, it needs technical skills now. People who would be able to fix things, to start something from scratch, to build, to do all of that. And especially because the second part of the discussion today will be about developers in our country, to say, we cannot blame government for everything. Some of the things as communities we need to look at trying to do them ourselves. So we'll be having a panel and serious discussions with developers. Communities continue to grow. We see people who are working for government and the private settling in our rural areas and building nice houses. So amenities are required. You would need, some would even require private schools, complexes and all of that. So we are just trying to position traditional leaders in the communities to make sure that as these things happens all over the country, they are able to actively participate and benefit as partners of those projects.
Is this where the private sector then comes in, Kgosi? Are you still able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
So the issues that you've just mentioned now with developers coming into communities, This is obviously why the private sector will be part of today's gathering.
Yes. We cannot do without the private sector as rural communities. We need to bring them in as soon as possible, but we need to bring them in on fair footing. It cannot be that they just come with the claim to developing communities and then, they leave the community, they get all the shares and the profits, and our people are left with nothing and just fighting for, retail jobs and all of that. We need to actively be participating in that space.
Yeah. I mean, these are massive issues that affect so many communities around the country. Will the people who live in these communities, not just the traditional leaders, but the residents themselves, will they be part of today's discussions?
We are having about 300 people in total in form of delegates. The responsibility of all traditional leaders who will be there today is to go back to their communities and carry out this message to say the National House convened us together with the Deputy President. These are the issues that we discussed. What is your take on them? We've got a community here with maybe 10,000, 30,000 people. How can we position ourselves as communities? So it's for the leaders to come and take what could work for them and go back to their communities and report to say, this is what is being said. What is your view? How do we move forward as communities?
I mean, the hope is obviously that a gathering like today is not just a talk shop, right? We want to see, and that's why there is this tracker as well. We want to see these discussions actually result in tangible changes. If we think of TVET colleges, of unemployment, of infrastructure development in these rural communities. And I asked you this question at the start of our discussion. Are we seeing those kinds of changes when we track what's been done over the years of these discussions between the House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders and government? Do we see that there is this change happening?
Well, not necessarily. As you would know, government is very slow in carrying out its work. Hence, you look at the second part of the discussion being about communities themselves doing their own thing. Because if we can just sit and wait for government to do everything, we will be here again, 5 years later and complaining further and further. So as government takes long to do what it's supposed to do in terms of law and agreements, we should also as communities be working with private sectors. Seemingly it's able to do things with much better speed than our government systems.
Well, that certainly is, an indictment. And let's hope that these discussions do result in tangible changes in those various communities. Kgosi Thabo Seatlholo, let me thank you for your time this morning. The National House of Traditional and Khoi-San leaders meeting with government and the private sector today.